There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I appreciate you joining us. We have another great meeting this morning lined up with Dan. It's called Listings Equal Paychecks. So as you notice, most of our content with Dan this year has been focused purely on the listings. And that's really where we're going to keep that conversation here over the next few months. So Dan's got a great program here for you. I appreciate you joining us. We are recording this, so we will send this to everybody as soon as we're done, so you can reference. But with that, I'll turn it over to Dan. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you very much. And guys, thank you. Again, it's always an honor to get to talk with you. And yes, today, when we were talking about content and listings equal paychecks, I couldn't agree more with that. It's really a simple fact of real estate. There's old sayings, you list to live, listings are the name of the game. Forever, that has been the mantra. And I heard one time, a long, long time ago, when I was still learning how to do this job, a trainer say the following thing, which has stuck with me forever. They said, when you don't have listings in real estate, it would be like opening a dress shop. And someone would walk in for a dress and you'd go, oh, you're looking for a dress? And they look around, they go, well, you don't have any dresses in your shop. Don't worry, I know where all the dresses are. So tell me what you're looking for. Okay, stay right here, I'll be right back. And then the trainer described running down the parkway to a dress store, walking in and go, let me borrow this dress, running back to their store and going, how's this dress? The person goes, no, that's not really the dress I want. Well, hang on. And then when they came back the next time, the person wasn't waiting for them because they had no dresses. And that just stuck in my head. And I was like, yeah, real estate is an inventory business. And if I don't have some inventory on my shelves, I might not get the best people to do business with. So today, there's a couple things I want you to do for me. One, I want you to be open and ready to use your chat box to give me some input, because half of today's session is going to be all about the challenges you are currently facing. So I need you to not hold back on me. I want it to where I can't get to all the questions or all the comments coming in. So everybody make sure they open up their chat. Just make sure you know yours is open and life is good. Go to chat, say hi Dan or something and hit enter. Just populate the heck out of chat so I know everybody's out there ready to go. Awesome. I don't want anybody arguing with their mouth shut, as I've told you guys when we're live. I need you to be prepared to work with me here. Second thing, no comment, concern, or challenge is too small or not important enough to put down. We are coming into a rotation of the marketplace, which I keep talking to you guys about. And there's a battle out there in the marketplace that I'm going to address. So if you're feeling anything, throw it out there. If I can't get to it, I'm not going anywhere. I'll get to Mark or something. We'll find a way to answer the questions, but I'm gonna do my best to address those in the second half of today's program. So again, I wanna thank Newman Title. And for them, we wouldn't do this. They're the sponsor. They're the ones that carry the load for us to be able to do this each and every time. Make sure that you are thanking them when you get the opportunity and that you're utilizing their services. Another thing that I was always a big fan of, I tell all the agents that work for me, is always have a primary person in title and mortgage. Build a relationship with that person. That's where if they know that you are a partner to them, they'll be a partner to you. And if you follow the processes that they give you, all of my checklists for me to be able to operate and then my company to operate, I went to our primary lender and our primary title company. And I said, give me the process by which a transaction goes smooth. And they told me all the things that would go wrong, all the things that can go right. And we created our processes, our checklist based on the vendor's process, not mine, not what I thought it should be, but what they needed. And man, when we would follow that, things just were like smooth as glass. But having a partner, every once in a while, when you're following things right, things still can go wrong. So in those times, I could go to them and say, hey, I need a little help. But if I don't follow their processes or I don't use them consistently, and every time I'm at the doorstep, I'm like, I need your help, That's like a friend that's never there to help you, but always needs you, always needs your truck, or always needs your money. We want to make sure we really, really show the companies that are our partners that we're there for them. So with that, some opening thoughts. Those of you who are economic-minded people might have saw this morning, the PPI, the Producer Price Index, came out. Now I'm talking about inflation again and the potential for the interest rates to move. And the PPI came out and it was 0.8%. That's on a monthly basis versus the expectation of 0.5%. So that was 60% higher than their expectation. So what happened right away? Stocks were looking good coming into the morning, and they started to fall off the cliff depending on the type of stock. Like Zoom, the technology we're on right now, they went down $4 or $5 like that. People are like, why? Well, if the producer price index is really soaring, that means more and more people are getting out there and doing normal things than they expected. So they believe Zoom might get less use if we start to do things in a more live fashion. So all these things are interconnected. But then I looked at interest rates, where interest rates had started to come down. If you look at the 10-year, we talked about that a couple times ago. The interest rates started to come down under 1.4, 1.48, 1.49 in the 10-year. It shot above 1.5 immediately as soon as that number came out. So what does that say to us? That says that the argument in the financial markets, which I've shared with you before, the Federal Reserve, Chairman Powell, still believes that inflation is transitory, meaning it's the supply chain bottlenecks from COVID that are causing a lack of materials, which then make the materials that are available more expensive. As soon as we open that choke point and all this goods start flowing, it will drive the prices back down. That's what the Fed chairman's pushing. But then on the other side of the coin, you've got people going, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet just hit $8 trillion. That means they're printing money like crazy to support this economy because of COVID. And all that free money sooner or later causes inflation, i.e. real estate inflation. You give people 2%, 3% interest rates in a norm that would be 5, 6, you generate a lot of activity. Well, a lot of activity with not a lot of inventory coming on the market causes prices to go up. Well, sooner or later, that's inflationary. So the only way the Federal Reserve can deal with that is to cause interest rates to rise, where borrowing money becomes expensive. And that makes people make different decisions, and therefore it cools off the economy. Now, I'm still in the camp that the fourth quarter, we're going to see this happen. The National Association of Realtors economist says it. The economist for leading RE feels the fourth quarter is there. I've been preaching the fourth quarter since the beginning of the year, actually the fourth quarter of last year. I really think the rotation will happen then. So what does that mean? Well, we're in June. So you got July, August, September, October before you start to see that occur. Why do we need to know that? Because that's how a real estate professional looks out the horizon through the windshield and starts to say, how do I make the adjustments so I can be sustainable and profitable through any type of market? That's why Jeff has asked me with Mark and Bob and your whole leadership team that we need to focus on listings. So with that said, to become a balanced agent and take listings, we have to make sure that we're being on purpose. That's a quote that I've used in my company here at the Training Academy for 22 years. Be on purpose. If you got up at 8 in the morning, it was because on a work day, it's because that's what you intended to do. If you were calling your sphere, or if you were on the social media, digital prospecting, the things we've talked about, it's because you plan to do it. Most people are reactionary. I call it accidental business. They get up and whatever stimulates them to work causes their activities to happen. The problem with that is if the activities that are stimulating you are not money-making activities, you will work harder than anyone in any industry, but not make the return that you desire or that you deserve. So I want you to know this is about being on purpose. It's about being unique. We're in a marketplace where we're being commoditized. To be commoditized means that the consumer has deemed all agents identical, leaving only the price of their service as the differentiation to do business. More and more, I hear all the way to my clients in New Zealand. I just was on the Zoom last night with some managers. I consult with a company, a leading RE company in New Zealand, in Auckland, and I had the manager say, Dan, you're pressing us to maintain our commission rate, but I've got agents that are just on my doorstep saying the only way they can compete in today's market is got to lower the fee, got to lower the fee. And I go, so that means the only thing that you're good at is dropping your price. You're not good at your service. You're not good at your exposure. You're not good at using, using Russell and the winning differences of Russell. We're not any good at being better than the next agent professionally. We're not any better having leading RE as a partner. We're saying all that means nothing in the marketplace. But the reality is it does. And sadly, the conclusion of the conversation with this gentleman in New Zealand, they have 58 offices. I work with all of them. The sad conclusion was the majority of the offices have moved their commission rate higher while he has resisted. Now, how can everybody else in Auckland move their commission rate up and he not? It's a mindset. He's not being unique to the marketplace. He is meeting the market at the lowest common denominator. So if we want to be good right now in this market, we have to be unique. We have to be purposeful. If we can do those things, we can get the fee we deserve and we can win over the competition every time. But this is a big one, but it's also about being disciplined. We have to be disciplined. See, in a second, I'm going to take you backwards to some of the stuff I've done with you. And I want you to be honest with yourself as I go through there and say, have you implemented any of the things and the strategies and skill sets that we've been talking about? And if you said no, when I get to that point, that's about discipline. That's about being purposeful when I wake up and running my business the way my business needs to run. And again, I'm here because I love you guys. I want you to do as well as possible in this marketplace. But this marketplace is going to be very cruel. It's being cruel right now, but it's going to get even more cruel if we don't get our ducks in a row there. And then it has to be consistent. So I have to be purposeful, unique. I have to be disciplined in my activities, and I have to be consistent, meaning tenacity is my best friend. I will not quit. I will keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. I can do that. I will outlast the competition because already the competition is in trouble. In many places around the United States, the competition, some of the disruptive people or the people that play the pricing game on commission to earn their living, they're in trouble because they haven't earned enough money to be able to run the businesses that they're trying to run because they keep cutting and keep discounting. So this is a good thing for us. So somebody needs to mute. And Buddy, are you there? Can you mute them? I don't have the co-host. So what are the resources you have at your hands at Russell Real Estate? I'd like everybody right now, look down at their pad. You should have a pad of paper. I always have mine. I want you to start to write down what resources do you have to transition yourself into a competitive, sustainable, balanced real estate business model where you have listings and buyers and you're running your life. Your life isn't being run by business. I want you to write down a couple resources right now. So just write them down. And I'm going to give you a few off the top of my head here in a second. What are the resources you have to make sure that this happens? Now, as you know, I've been working with your team for a long time. The majority of your management team has been through Maestro. So I know them very well. And so here's the resources off the top of my head. First of all, the culture environment of Russell Real Estate is a giving environment. It is an abundant environment. It means we can make all boats float. So you're in an environment where no one's trying to find a way for you to fail. There are businesses where that happens. Another resource is you've got Mark. Mark and I've worked closely together. Mark is an amazing and talented trainer. If you'll follow his lead and ask for his assistance and go to him whenever he's holding classes and resources, you'll learn. You've got your management team. I know they're more than happy to coach you or hold you accountable, whether it's a short period of time just to get you over the hump or whether it's a long period of time. You have Jeff. And I know Jeff wanders the organization and he's always there to help. So you've got all this support, all this help, plus the services that Russell provides you. And then layer on top of that, the fact that you have the greatest global network supporting you as well. There's a lot of resources. What I want to turn to you now is I want to turn you to what I've done for you over the last 3 quarters of from the fourth quarter of 2020 to today. So keep your pencils out, keep your pens out. In Q4, I took you through a webinar. It was called Dominate Your Market. So write these down. What did I teach you there? I taught you how to take a geographical area and run a geographical farm on steroids. Talked to you about how you needed to visit every FSBO and expired that pops up. Everybody that moves into the neighborhood, whether it was your deal or not, within the first week of them moving in, you'd go introduce yourself. Everybody gets on your sphere. They receive something from you each month, a newsletter or whatever. Once a quarter, you've talked to everybody in that marketplace. I told you I did that with agents in my company, and I've done it with agents for 22 years in a training company. And everyone that's consistent, unique, on purpose, disciplined, ends up being the dominant listing agent in that market. Now, Jeff records these. So the 2020 Q4 webinar gave you a step-by-step approach that didn't take a whole lot of time, that you can do as your routine through your work days and go at the end of the 12 months, be the dominant listing agent in the marketplace. I have companies that are doing it today in the market that we're in. I mean, agents doing it today. So there was one resource. There were some skill strategies and ideas for you to be able to do that. Q1 of 2021, I talked to you about the inventory myth and COVID canvassing our sphere of influence. Well, the inventory myth was we have slowly watched almost 70 to 80% of agents go over to the buyer side of the business. Why? Because they believe the myth that there's no inventory. So it's easier to go with, because there's so many buyers that want to buy, it's easier to go on the buyer side. Well, Q1, I was telling you, in 2020, we had some agents make some money doing that. But coming into 2021 with multiple offers and challenges getting your deal accepted, that became less of a profitable thing because you were competing with 80% of the real estate agents for half the transactions. Remember, if there's 500 transactions in your marketplace, there's 500 list side, 500 buy side. If 80% of the agents are trying to get the 500 buy sides, like 20% of the agents are going after the list sides. They're making the money. But Dan, there's no inventory. Well, if there's no inventory, there'd be no sales. Our sales continue to rise. NAR just put out another report where we have record-breaking sales. You can't have record-breaking sales unless you've had record-breaking inventory. So the myth is that there's no inventory. When there's plenty of inventory, it just turns so quickly, it never sits on the shelf. So if I'm not trying to get it, then I'm not going to participate in that side of the transactions. And as more and more agents, 1.6 million now in NAR, gravitate to the buyer side, there's more competition to find a buyer that can buy than there is to find a listing. I just have to be unique, disciplined, tenacious, creative to go do it. So then I gave you the COVID canvassing. Got a company in Evansville, Indiana. I got 2 agents up there. This is all they did for a period of time. They're killing it with COVID canvassing. They're going, Dan, we talked to people that we did. Now these are experienced agents, but I think 10, 11 years in the business. We talked to people we haven't talked to in a decade that we did transactions with using that approach, and everybody accepted us. But they got up every morning and did their 5, did their 5, did their 5, did their 5. They were consistent, they were purposeful, they were tenacious. Most people did it once or twice and went, it didn't work. So I provided you that as an opportunity to start balancing. Then just the last one we did, Q2, I did the math. Some of you, if you were on it, you might remember. When I did the math with you, I asked you, how many listing appointments do you need to attend to get a listing? Some people said 1, 2, 3. So we said 3. And then I did the math. I said, so if you work 48 weeks a year, taking 4 full weeks off, work 5 days a week, and your only goal in those 48 weeks is to make sure you average 2 listing appointments per week, what would that do for you? Well, I did the math. 2 listing appointments ended up generating, and I said 80% of the listings will sell. I didn't say 100%. 80% of the listings you take will sell, and half the people that you sold their home would buy a house from you. So you only get half of your sellers buy a house from you, and 80% of the listings you take sell. That was 26 listings sold, 14 sales for 40 transactions at 300 grand was $12 million in closed business. But all you had to do was be disciplined, consistent to set 2 listing appointments on average every week for 48 weeks out of the year. And it just happens. The best part of what I shared with you doing the math was you never worked with a buyer that wasn't already your seller. So I provided you with these things, and then I gave you digital prospecting. For those of you a little nervous about prospecting, I gave you 3 methods of digital prospecting. We looked at why people sell. Remember, I gave you the NAR statistics of why people sell. I said, wake up every morning in your PJs, prospect in your PJs. Hit your social media, but don't look at your news feeds. Segment your people where every day, every work day, you go to 5 people's homepage and read their personal comments and life, looking for people saying things like, man, the job's too far away. It's too long of a drive. That's one of the reasons people sell. House is too small. There's one of the reasons people sell. Baby, child going away to school, parent moving in, parent moving out. All those things are reasons people sell their property. And if I am watching them share their lives, I will find those opportunities, get live, and voila, I've got an opportunity to list a property. And then I gave you the FSBO approach, assistance approach of FSBO through digital prospecting. And then I gave you the LinkedIn reverse referral approach. You know somebody that's thinking about maybe selling or an expired or a FSBO, or you heard a name, you run it through your LinkedIn, click second link, and look for a friend that might know that friend and ask for a referral. So what I'm getting at here, guys, I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but between the resources in your organization and what your company's asked me to do with you over the last 3 quarters, why isn't everyone dominating their market? Well, I think it boils down to purposeful, discipline, execution, consistency. So these are available to go back. What I need you to do before the 4th quarter gets here is decide which one is you. So you can go and become the dress shop with the dresses. So when this market starts to turn, you'll be the one that people are running to. If you're not filling your dress shop up, they're going to be going somewhere else. And write this quote down. This is a Dan quote. There are always enough buyers for listing agents, but there's not always enough buyers for buyer agents. I say that one more time. There's always enough buyers for listing agents, but there's not always enough buyers for buyer agents. That is a fact, because as the market rotates, you could have somebody that looks like, talks like, and acts like they're going to buy, but never buy. Right now, you might have somebody that looks like, talks like, walks like they're going to buy, and they can't buy because of the market. But if you have inventory, it always sells. The worst market I was ever in, 135 average days on market, 65% sales rate. 35% of my listings would expire, 65% would sell. Took 135 days on average to do that. I still made more money than most people in business. All I had to do was adjust the number of listings I had. I had to manage more listings to have enough turn to be able to sell listings, sell my sellers a new house, and make a great living. As the market heats up, as that went from 135 to 90 and from 65% to 75%, I just had to carry fewer listings to make the same money, or keep taking more listings and make even more money. But if I don't have the listings at all, there's no math to show me how I'll make a living, because I don't know whether the buyer that I have can produce, operate in the current market, take the action they need to take. There's always enough buyers for a listing agent, not always for a buyer's agent. So I want to see if you got any questions right now. Type them in. Any questions about the setup I just gave you? I'm trying to get your mind right where it needs to be so you can go and make informed decisions as a real estate professional to be able to go out there and make some of these adjustments. Now, those of you who are inventory agents, you take listings, you got it, you understand, but don't get off track. And this is why. One of the deans at Leading RE with me, Mike Staver, you might have met him or heard of him. We were talking at conference. Matter of fact, it came up at the Maestro reunion, where he has this high-end, highly successful 20-year agent veteran who, on their last coaching call, he said whenever he got on the call with her, she was crying, she was in tears. And he just simply asked her, what's wrong? And she said, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna get out of this business. I just can't deal with this anymore. She's like, what's wrong? She goes, I've got great buyers. I can't find them a place. They keep losing out and it's killing me. Well, after Maestro, I sat down with him and I said, tell me about this girl. Well, she used to be a listing agent. That's why she was so successful. But then the pandemic came and the low interest rates, and he said she slowly moved from going and getting listings to running buyers around, and now she's about to quit because she can't handle the stress and the mental problem of this current marketplace. And the funny thing is, he said she's doing this sitting in a Bentley. She's crying in her Bentley. So this is not a wimpy agent. This is not an agent that hasn't succeeded. So I said, are you guiding her back to the list side? He goes, yes. And I go, because if she gets back on the list side, the mental health problems will go away. And she'll continue to make the money she always made. So any questions so far? Hey, Dave. Okay. Now, here's what I want you to do right now. Things get in the way. For us to perform, life happens. I will never discount that. But please write this down too. If I can get you to be disciplined enough to understand this theory, and this is a personal theory of mine, I can never blame time and I can never blame the market for my inability to grow or make the money I need to make. Can't blame time, can't blame the market. I want you to think about that. Well, as a coach, I used to coach agents. Now I coach leaders and managers, CEOs. But if someone comes to me and said, Dan, I didn't get to that because I ran out of time, that doesn't fly with me. And they're always like, but I ran out of time. I go, so? You know, do you have less time than your competitor? I mean, does your clock have fewer numbers on it? They're like, no. I go, so you have the same amount of time as the other person? Yeah. Well, then you don't know how to use your time. Because if someone's beating you, they didn't get more time. They just decided how to use the time differently than you. So time is the great equalizer. Stop blaming time for why you're not getting where you need to be. And people get mad at me and they're like, but no, stop blaming time. Then they go, well, the market shifted. I go, did it just shift for you? What do you mean? I mean, you're the only agent it shifted for. No, it shifted for everybody. Well, then market is the great equalizer. Time in the market is what everyone has to deal with. It's the people that are more creative in the way they attack the market and more disciplined in the way they utilize time that win. But if we allow time and market to be the excuse, we remove ourselves as the problem. If I don't let you use time or market, the only thing left is our behaviors, our disciplines, and the actions that we take. So if you can get to where you can get rid of those, then every time you postmortem something that didn't go right, it will be in your own court. It will be, I could have done this differently. I could have brushed up on this skill. I could have attended that class. I could have gone back and researched this. I could have asked a better question. I could have improved my value proposition. All those things matter in business. Time and market are hiding places. So things get in the way, but moving forward, I don't want you to ever say it's the time or it's the market. The things that get in the way is our behaviors, our decisions, and the way we execute. So 3 areas. And then I want you to give me some input here. Area number one that I want you to think about, self-management. It's my word for time management. So self-management is about the following: the ability to manage yourself and hold yourself accountable to the goals and objectives that you have. It's kind of like being your own boss. It's kind of schizophrenic. I've got a question for you. I'm just curious, because when I'm gonna get into it, I gotta see if anybody feels like I do. Put a Y and hit enter, Y for yes and hit enter if you have a voice in your head that talks to you. I'm just curious, Y and enter if you have a voice in your head. Okay, now, second time, put two Ys and enter if you have more than one voice. I have three. I've actually named them. But we have these voices in our head. And the voices in our head are what drive us in our self-management, I truly believe. Some of them give me negative input. That won't work, or you're going to embarrass yourself, or no one cares about that, Dan. That's my bad voice. And then I have a voice that's a little less loud that's back there going, but we're good at what we do. We can make this happen. And then my other voice, we won't get into that one. It talks some real nonsense. So what I have to do is sort through the voices in my head. And I call it, I have to train the bad one. And I have to listen to the good one. Because self-management is about me being my own boss. I can't let the bad one come out when I'm my own boss. I didn't complete something. So I step back and I'm my boss and I go, hey, Elzer, you failed to complete that objective. Now, if the bad voice is making most noise, I'll go, yeah, I know that the market's tough and I know that, it was hard to get a hold of people because of COVID. And I know, no, that's the bad voice getting in there, giving me an excuse to not perform. I need to have the good voice going, why didn't we talk to them? No one is better than us to help them. No one is better than us to bring them the experience they're looking for. Why wouldn't we want to talk to them? So self-management is about me being able to hold myself accountable to goals and objectives that I have. If I don't get clear on that, then I'll allow outside forces to drive me the way that I operate. Someone will call and tell me to do something. Someone will get mad about something that happened, and I'll make that my universe instead of run my business and deal with things. So there's a couple areas of self-management. The first one is block time management. And that's where you take a week at a glance, 7 days, and you block off times to do all the important things. Prospect, follow up your sphere, go on listing appointments, show buyers property, but be realistic about the blocks. When will you be off? When do you come to work? When will you be done with work? I mean, basically lay it out as if you worked for someone that was paying you a salary or an hourly rate. When you got your week at a glance worked out, you'll notice there's a lot of white space still once you've boxed off things to do the important things. Once you see all that white space, you realize there's an awful lot of white space in here. And I did this, guys, with you last year. I did a visual for you. After we worked 5.5 days, 9 to 10 hour days, 5.5 days. And after we blocked off everything, there were still 27 hours of white space wide open. And some of you even commented going, there's no way I have that much free time. Well, that's because we don't manage self. We let other people manage us. So block time management is the first one. Second one is task tracking. There's a big difference between a to-do list and a list of things to do. A to-do list is finite, purposeful, and can be completed in the day that it is made. A list of things to do is that page that you just data dump out of your head, all the things you're trying not to forget to do. Most of us operate from a list of things to do, which gives us easy things to do and scratch off and feel good about, leaving the hard things for some other day. But as we keep adding to our list of things to do, we always put easier things down that cause us to stay away from the hard things, and we never get where we want to go. A to-do list is where you take things from that long list and you have 5, 6 things for today to get done. Some of them are the hard ones, some of them are the easy ones, but you don't overplan because you've looked at your week at a glance and there's that white space. You know you can get these 6 things done today. Now, when you get to the end of the day, and you got some time left, you got to go to your to-do list, which has that important thing. Call 5 people in your sphere. But if I'm on the list of things to do, I can find, move your phone from the left side of your desk to your right side of the desk and scratch it off. There's always easy things there. So I can't operate from that. So those are some important elements to being a good self-manager. And as I'm going through these, if you got questions, fire them away. So that's one thing I want you to think about. Second area I want you to think about for where we are in this marketplace is I've taught you in the past that we qualify in 3 areas if you work with the Training Academy and Dan Elzer, not just one. Most agents qualify people financially, and that's it. But the Training Academy always teaches 3 areas: financial, emotional, and urgency. So let me describe them again. Financial for a buyer would be credit qualification with the cash wherewithal to transact. On the seller side, it would be the equity or cash availability if they're upside down. Emotional qualification are all the parties to the property or the purchase on the same page when it comes to budget, location, style, design. And then the third one is urgency. Do they have a deadline to have the house sold or to purchase? When we didn't have all 3 of these in line, we could have a financially qualified person that the husband tells the wife, I don't want that. And the wife says, but that's the house I want. And you end up showing multiple houses until they finally agree. Well, not Dan. Dan would make them decide that before we went out the very first time. You can only buy one house, guys. It's either going to be a Colonial or it's going to be a Tuscan. It can't be both. What is it going to be? But most agents just go and find that out as they're showing houses because they're working maybe more with the wife, and the wife's like, this is what we're going to do. We find the house, and the husband says no. Then there's urgency. They know exactly what they want. They're financially approved, but they never pull the trigger because you never asked when did they need to be in the house. And you would have heard this. Well, it really doesn't matter. We like the house that we have, but if we can find the right thing at the right time in the right place, we might pull the trigger. These were things that used to get agents in trouble, is not qualifying in 3 areas. 2021, there's a 4th area. Listen up. The 4th area for 2021 is, can they compete? Now, I just went through this myself. My sister, we moved my parents, my mom, my stepdad, moved them into Brookdale, a really nice senior living place. It's not assisted living, it's just a senior living place. And I had built the house when I was a builder for my mom, and my sister had moved in to help them. So my sister had lived with them for several years, just helping them and being there for them. So when they moved into Brookdale, we sold the house, my sister had to find a place. So my mom gifted her some money and we went out to find her a 2-2 condo. Here in Orlando, guys, we just stopped doing this a month ago. I went 8 times for her to purchase, fully qualified, 30, 40% down, 8 swings of the bat. The 8th offer we made was day 1 of a listing, 15% over list price, and I offered to pay the commissions for the seller, putting more money on their bottom line without pushing the price up to where it might not appraise. So I dropped all the commission cost off of their side of the ledger, and I was paying for it on my sister's side. Plus, we were 15% over list price. We didn't get a phone call back from the listing agent. I had to hunt the listing agent down to find out that not only did we not get a response, but we weren't in the ballpark. Now, I don't know how hot some of the areas are that you're in, but I know there's some hot areas. I sat my sister down and I said to her, you're qualified financially, you have the desire and the urgency, but you cannot compete. To buy the type of property you need, because she's raising one of her grandkids, so she's got a teenage grandson, she needs a 2-bedroom. For her to get a 2-bedroom place in a place that she wants to live, she doesn't have the horsepower to compete. And that upset her. She goes, but that's ridiculous. I'm approved. I got a lot of money to put down. I said, doesn't matter. I said, you can't compete. There are people willing to do more than you're willing or able to do, and therefore you can't compete. So that's the fourth qualifier right now. Working with agents all over the place and the companies that I consult with, I've heard, we were just at conference, your leaders were just at conference where agents on stage said it was acceptable to think you had to go 4, 5, 6, 7 times before you could get someone into a property. Guys, that means you're doing 7 times the work to get paid once, when there's only 20% of the people over on the list side. We're just not focusing there. We're just not even trying there. So these are the things I want you to think about. So this is the last one, the third one. We have to be empathetic, not sympathetic. Our services need to be put to work with people who can not only afford it, have urgency, have a deadline, but that can compete based on the style and design of home they want to buy. Now, if they're going into a market where it's not that hot, there's only 1 or 2 people competing for a property, great. But if you're in a spot like my sister was, I had to tell my sister, I can't show you houses anymore. We got to find you a rental until this cools off because you can't compete. She didn't like it, but now she's in a rental. So a year from last month, I'm hopeful that our condo market cools off a little bit and I can put my sister into something. But if we didn't, we would have kept going and kept going, and she didn't have a place to live, and it was a hot mess, and she was stressed and I was stressed. She'd text me at 8 o'clock in the morning. She'd text me at midnight and go, I just saw this come up on Realtor.com. Can we do that one? I mean, it was horrible. She couldn't compete. So I couldn't be sympathetic any longer. I had to be empathetic. Remember the difference. Empathy is I understand how you feel, and I'm the professional to help you. Sympathy is I feel bad with you. A real estate agent has to be empathetic, not sympathetic, to be able to be the trusted advisor people need in today's world. So, questions, thoughts? Same for my managers and leaders. Anything that hits your mind, let me know. And Mark, don't hesitate yourself if something popped into your head. I mean, I can't be this good, guys. You got to have a question or an argument or disagree with me or something. You can unmute and just yell at me if you'd like. No?
Hey, Dan, this is Lydia. Did you hear me?
Say it again. I can barely hear you.
That's okay. This is Lydia. Did you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. I just had 2 things that really struck me today. I am somebody that really struggles with the time blocking and prioritizing my commitments for the day, especially with agents and family and a build out and everything going on and covering for other managers. I've found something that's been really working for me so much better that I think sometimes we look at it as a big animal to time block. If I time block an hour to 2 hours, it actually stresses me out because people are dinging my phone and I can hear it. I have found for myself that if I can even do a solid 30 minutes and then gradually get to an hour, 30 minutes focused was better than what I was doing before on something. So do something to make it digestible. Case in point, when I told my agents I would be on this call, and please to not reach out to me during this too. The other thing is, I loved what you were saying about number 4. We've had some of those conversations recently with some of the agents in our own office, very successful agents that are losing 6, 7, 8 times, not because they're not strong offers, but because their buyers can't compete. And it is a challenge for all of us. We all want to help our clients. But it is a disservice, in my opinion, not to sit down with a client and let them know what their options are, and that one of their options are that maybe they need to think about waiting 6 months or a year, and maybe they can get from an FHA to a conventional loan. Maybe they can go from needing seller assistance to not needing seller assistance. I thought it was great you hit on that. That's not a failure. That's being part of the solution and explaining options to our clients. And I think we all need to hear that and understand it. We're not alone with that. Those are okay conversations to have. We're here to educate them on their options. So I thought those 2 things were really great today.
Well, thank you very much. And you're dead on small bites, guys. She crushed it on that. Our emotions, remember, time and market, I can't blame. So I got to look at myself. My emotions drive me. My voices drive me. A lot of things drive me. So If I'm trying to swallow the elephant in one bite, as the saying goes, I'm going to choke on it. But if I go from trying to block off multiple hours to, let me just do 30 minutes this week and see what can happen. It's amazing what can happen when you start to build confidence in yourself and the way you operate. Another thing I've shared with you before, and I share with agents when I used to coach them. Matter of fact, it was mandated when I coached an agent that they had on their phone at the end of their voicemail, it'd be, hi, this is Dan with Russell Real Estate. I'm sorry I missed your call. It's very important to me. Please leave me your name and a short message, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. And I always made them leave this at the end. But if I'm receiving this call after 6 p.m., it'll be returned the next day. Thank you. And everyone that I coach, all the agents back in the day that I coached said, Dan, I can't do that. I go, then I won't coach you. And fortunately, enough of them wanted me to be their coach that they trusted me. And they put that on their phone. And I said, you didn't stop working at 6, you stopped taking calls at 6. And all you got to do is explain to your people that you're working with, guys, you're going to hear that I stopped taking calls at 6. That's so I can get all this work done, research to find you a home. I can't keep taking calls and be effective for you. They go, well, what if it's emergency? I taught all the agents I coached to say this. Well, if it's an emergency, leave the message and I'll respond to you. But can you share with me what you think an emergency would be? And they would struggle to come up with what an emergency would be. They'd go, well, there could be something. Exactly, there could be something. So just leave that on my message. I listen to them. And if necessary, I'll respond to you. If not, I'll call you the next day. Is that okay? Every one of my agents that I coached that did that came back with just tons and tons of stories how their customers said, fine. If they got a message after 6, it sounded like this. Hey, Dan, I know it's after 6, but I just didn't want to forget to ask you this, but tomorrow will be just fine. Blah, 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 blah. Have a good night. They would keep coming to me, go, Dan, they're apologizing if they're leaving a message after 6. Here's what I was getting at. If I don't teach you the rules of the game, you don't know how to play the game. So if I'm scared to tell a client that I take calls between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., if you call me before, I'll get to you during the day. If you call me after, I'll return it the next day, unless it's an emergency. That gives me the opportunity to do my pre and post work, which is for you. Will that be okay? If we don't do that, they think midnight is still a work time. They think 11 o'clock, they should get a response. There's a lot of ways that we can get our act together here, folks. But that fourth qualifier, can you compete? As hard as that will be to have that conversation, it will save your career and allow you to perform for the people that can compete while being honest, ethical, and a great advisor to those who cannot. Because their life isn't getting any better 6, 7, someone put 17 times. Their life's not getting any better doing that. So we have to be that trusted advisor sometime. Got a couple of things here. Let me see. Just master one new thing. FSBO's expired. Geographical farming. Alex, hey, buddy. Farming on steroids, door knocking, exactly. I used to tell people there's about 12 ways to go out and prospect. Most agents try to do a little bit of all 12 and they fail. They're master of none. I go, pick one, be the best at one. The 3-foot rule. I said for COVID, the 6-foot rule, but pick one way of engagement that you're looking to find your listing appointments and be the master, be the best at it. And don't worry about the other ways because you have your way and then life gets great. Teach people how to treat you. Amen. I have always had that on my voicemail. I get snooty responses from agents regarding my message. Problem is no one calls anymore. Everyone texts all hours of the day or night. Okay, there is a text auto response too. Because I get that from people that my old clients, my old agent clients, and I go, there are applications to give auto text back saying, I've received your text. I'll be returning text. It's after 6. I'll be returning text tomorrow unless it's an emergency. Blah blah blah. You can do it. You can condition people. And yes, it's the agents that get nasty because most agents don't perform in a on purpose and business manner. They're out of control, eyes in the rearview mirror, hair on fire. They're not purposeful. So I can appreciate that as well. Can you talk about what really sets us apart? Is it us personally, marketing, culture? I'm struggling with how to set myself apart from other agents. Okay. The way I would look at this is I set myself apart regardless where I'm working by using the most vast part of what I have first. So if I'm a real estate professional, I'm trying to gain great market awareness and exposure because I'm a listing-based agent for my clients. The more people that know my client's property is for sale, the faster the sale and the higher the price. So I look and go, okay, I'm pretty darn good, but I don't have the budget, I don't have the reach or the exposure of my company, which doesn't have the budget, reach, and exposure of Leading RE. So where some people make the pyramid, the big part of the pyramid is me. I work for a company and we belong to Leading RE. I always did it the other way. I am the professional real estate agent to facilitate an amazing experience. I do that through utilizing my skills and services, leveraging for you Russell Real Estate, which has a huge footprint along the lake in Northern Ohio, the best agents, the best leadership team, all the products and services internally, support services, marketing, everything. But then we amplify that with being a member of an invitation-only global network of real estate professionals. So I differentiate myself by being okay with my ego to be the person who orchestrates these two great things. When I would compete against agents and people would ask that question of me, I would say, well, what did Dave share with you where he could increase your exposure, give you global representation, do this and this? And the seller would come back and go, well, Dave didn't get into it like that. Dave told me about Dave. Dave said, Dave, he's this, he was number one here, he was this. And I go, that's really nice. And I've taught you guys this question. Remember during my presentation, I asked, do you want someone local or out of town to buy your home? Doesn't really matter. Well, what percentage of people buying here in Cleveland area do you think come from out of the area? I don't know, 20, 25%. So do you want to market to 75% or 100%? Oh, 100%, Dan. Well, that's why we have our affiliation with our other offices across Northern Ohio, but also nationally and globally with leading real estate companies of the world. Well, if Dave says, Dave, me, I was number one, I could come back to that seller and go, so Dave's amazing here locally, right? Well, yeah. So what about the other 25% that you said, those people coming from out of the area? Is he doing anything for them? Well, he didn't mention anything. Well, again, I have to ask you, were you looking for a 75% penetration of the market or 100%? Well, I want 100%. Well, it sounds like Dave doesn't have the resources to provide that for you. May I have your listing? So confidence, one, learning and education, two, and then really asking and delineating what are the winning differences that I get through my organization, through my office, my leader, my company, my affiliation with Leading RE. I want to bring the howitzer to the table, even if I only need a handgun. I don't want to show up with a knife at a gunfight, because if you come against me in a listing presentation, the seller, if they didn't list with me and I was there, is going to say, well, how do you reach the 25% outside of the area? And if you're not educated on that, you might go, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? Well, right there, you just died if you're my competition, because the seller understood what it meant, but the so-called professional sitting there was clueless. So I don't know if I answered that properly, but I hope. Okay, now we've got ourselves about 15, 20 minutes, and here's what I want to do now. There are challenges out there. I've talked about some of them. I'd like you, and we've got 80 plus people on right now. I'd like you to text to me. What more specifically are some challenges of getting this done? What are you running into? And it can be one of two things. It can be skill related, how to, what to, when to do it, or it can be attitude. Attitude is about our emotions, our fear, procrastination, avoidance, disbelief in something. I don't believe that I can make the transition at conference, at Leading RE's conference. I did a big agent breakout. And we talked about these things. And I asked, what are the challenges? The guy raised his hand. I said, what's that? He says, Dan, I'm pedaling so hard, trying to get these buyers into contracts, that I'm scared if I take my foot off the gas at all, it will be the demise of my business. So how do I know for sure if I take just a little bit of that time and start to work on the list side, how do I know for sure it will work? I thought that was a legitimate question, but that was attitude, not skill. He had disbelief that he could make the transition. But what was causing the disbelief was he had no skill. So I simply asked him, I said, if you run a listing appointment, what is your approach on a listing appointment? And he goes, well, I really don't do much on listings. So I go, okay, so your fear is driven by your lack of skill. So I literally, in that breakout, I did my setup, which I've given to you guys. So I said, I want you to be the seller for a second. I'm coming through the door. And I just went, I explained to you how I work. First, I want to ask you some questions. I'd like to share with you the marketing program we have to get your house sold and closed. For that, we'll take a look at the house, important features and benefits. We'll come back, go through pricing strategies. And after that, we'll have enough information to make a decision. If you like me, say yes. If not, say no. So I did that role play right in front of him. I said, at this moment, do you think I'm a brand new agent, an experienced agent, a good agent, a bad agent? Tell me how you feel right now. And the guy went, I think you're an amazing agent if you came in my house and did that. I go, no one has ever taught you that skill. So if you had that skill, how would you feel about the transition to a list? He goes, much better. I said, so skill is prohibiting your emotions to take action. That's something you have to always pay attention to. There you go, Libby. You know, whenever you're a listing agent, you see a lot of different creative ways people are writing offers. And then that in turn educates you to help your buyers 100%. Always remember terms, guys. You know, that's what I tried to do for my sister. Instead of always raising the price, I attacked terms. I said, let me pay the commission. Let me pay, because we had the cash to do it. So let's use some of that cash to make the deal sweeter for the seller. Because in Florida, every time you raise the price, all the expenses in the state of Florida for the seller go off the price of the house. So I shared with the listing agent, whenever I sent over the offer, I said, you know, everyone else is driving your price up, which is increasing the cost to your seller. I'm going to pay your some of your cost to drop it right on the bottom line without increasing the seller's cost. Now, the only thing I don't know in the offer I made was the agent on the list side educated enough to properly present the offer I had. I asked if I could be a part of it. He said no, and then I never heard from him. But he might have poorly presented my offer, and the seller just fell in love with the highest number. I don't know that, but the more you learn, the better off you are. Okay, defined marketing program. I feel like I put it on the MLS, advertise it on Facebook. What are other agents doing that sets us apart from other brokerages? I don't want to pretend to do something I don't have. Excellent question. Okay, first and foremost, think of marketing a property in a three-phased way, okay? Phase one is my multiple listing, getting it knowledge through my office. We used to do, tours, listing tours or virtual tours of properties that hit the market. So as a listing agent, as soon as I would list a property, after I sold my company, I sold for a while because I got one of my top agents challenged me. So I bet you I can sell more than you this year, because I sold my company and literally walked out of the president's corner office and I sat in a cube. And I did it because I wanted to prove to my office that, these were good people that bought us, that I was willing to work there too. So he challenged me. So I looked at how did I want to differentiate myself? Well, I knew what our franchise had. I knew what we had. So I said, okay, phase one for my marketing is, MLS, social today, but also I would notify. Now I did it in our mailboxes back in the day, but I can do it through emails, direct message to people. But I want every agent in my office to be highly aware of what just came on the market. So I just exposed it, if you will, exponentially doing that. The second phase is I want to touch everybody that's active in the marketplace that my listing just came on. Now, this was something that I had to do and build. I'm giving you this as a potential difference for you. I slowly, as I went back to selling, would call a buyer agent from looking in the multiple listing. Hey, this person sells a lot in Wekiva. Hey, Bill, this is Dan at Advantage Realty Group. How you doing? Great. Hey, I don't know if you heard I sold the company. I'm now just selling. Oh, really? Great. I go, I see you're very active as a buyer agent in Wekiva. Yes. I'm building a team of buyer agents because I'm a listing agent that as soon as I take a listing, I will be sending that information out to. Would you be interested in receiving my listing information as one of the first people to hear about it? Oh, God, yes. I go, there's only one caveat, that when you show it, you must take the time to call me and give me feedback. If you don't take the time to call me and give me feedback, I take you off the list. You no longer get, the quick notification of a listing. I ended up with about 8 or 10 of the best buyer agents in the area that I listed properties. They weren't all in my company. Most of them were outside of my company. But when I sat in front of the seller, I'd say another way to gain great exposure is that I have a buyer agent team that don't work for me, but because I'm a listing agent, they look for my inventory. If you say yes today, tomorrow morning or tonight, your property will be in front of 8 of the best agents that work the other side. Now, agents used to fear and go, but Dan, if you tell them that they've got the buyers, they won't want to list with you. No, no, no. When I sat down with people, I go, there's 2 types of agents. There's a buyer agent and there's a listing agent. A listing agent knows how to market your property, negotiate in your best interest, make sure it gets from contract to close, gain maximum exposure for top dollar, fast sale, and a smooth transaction. A buyer agent knows how to find properties, take a buyer to it, and negotiate for the buyer to buy the house. I simply need to ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, would you go to a foot doctor for a heart problem? Well, no. Well, I'm the heart doctor. They're the foot doctor. Does that make sense? Yes. I made it clear in their mind in my presentation that there were 2 types of agents. That's the other reason I got listings. So then I said, but I got the best foot doctors on my payroll, baby. Would you like them to know about your house immediately? And it never failed. Out of those 8 or 10, I'd get a quick showing. I'd get a call and a feedback. I'd go to my seller and I would inform them. The third is getting global, getting beyond the borders. That's leading RE. Come to conference, meet people. I know everybody all over the world. I could pick up the phone and if let's say Canada, because I don't know right now because I'm not active, but Canada was our #1 import of buyers for a while in Florida. Well, I have 5 friends now in Canada that are either managers or owners of leading RE companies in Canada. Wouldn't it be cool if I could say, another thing I do besides using the leading RE interface through their web and through their website to reach globally all of the top agents worldwide, I will specifically reach out to my Canadian friends because that's where the #1 input of people coming to our market is. So I learn how to tell the seller the few little differentials that I'm going to do that, trust me, no other agent talks about. No other agent even knows how to talk about. So those are the things. So it's not like I've got some huge, massive marketing program. No, it's very purposeful. It's very intimate and it's very direct, but it gets results. I don't know if that helped you at all. Let me know, Sandy, if that made sense to you. So what other challenges are we facing to go out there and get them?
Hey, Dan, it's Sandy. Hey,
Sandy.
hey, that was great. Thank you. That is my struggle. I don't know why. It's been my struggle all along. I know once I get it under contract and I can sit down with them, like I do a great job as an agent, but trying to find something at that listing appointment that sets me apart, I think that's what I struggle with. So I like the idea of the buyer's agents and I would love to have just those 7 or 8 that I love to work with anyway. So, so I love that idea. So that was great. Thank you.
But don't set aside, Sandy, the fact that you should have a slide or 2 or a page or 2
Okay.
about leading RE.
Okay.
And explain. It's a members only. I mean, it's by invitation only. If you don't get referred by another leading RE broker, and if you're not one of the top 2 in market share in the immediate area or top 5 in a big area, you don't get to be a leading RE company. So when we talk about leading RE, we're saying that we're not just talking about any companies out there. We're talking about the best of the best in the marketplace, which have the best agents that will know about your property. The more we learn about that, the more passionate we can get about making sure things happen. But let me leave you with this, Sandy. Maximum exposure sells properties. Here's my anecdotal story that I said sometimes on a listing appointment. It will help you develop your marketing plan. I would say to the seller, remember, I've shared with you guys before the 5 things that sell a house: price, terms, condition, the location, and exposure. Price, terms, and condition are your responsibility, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I'm going to consult with you on the proper price, how to fix the house up, what terms you might want to offer to be competitive. But those are your decisions. The location is about desirability. That's how many people want to live here. We don't have control over that. That ebbs and flows with all the buyer's desire. We can survey it, we can look at it, but we can't influence it. The 5th thing that sells property is exposure. That's my job as a real estate professional. So then I would tell this story sometimes. I would say, for you to understand exposure, let me ask you this. Let's say we own a bicycle shop and we have 1 bike left of the hottest mountain bike on the market right now, and 5 buyers walk in wanting to buy it. Can we get top dollar for that bike? Sellers would go, yes. What if we have 10 bikes from last year and 1 buyer walks in? What will we have to do to sell a bike? Never failed. The sellers would go, put them on sale, lower their price. They go, yeah. I go, so which marketing plan do you want? Well, the first one, let me share with you how I reach more people than anyone else. Local, my own unit of people that I know, nationwide and globally. Do you think if I reach out to all those people, we might be able to have that first marketing plan? They always went, yes. So that's what you have to think about. The sale of property is about more people knowing about it. That's why these people that pocket listings and stuff, I'll be the first ones to go after them, because you cannot prove to me that holding back knowledge of a property helps a seller. And I have people always go, well, it can only sell for what it sells for. Now, you might have a guy like Dan. I'll turn around and go, I'll pay all of your closing costs and give you top dollar. You never know what the market will bear. That's why I always want to get maximum exposure for people. And that way I know that they're always going to do well. Good market or bad, I'm going to do the best I can for them. I hope that helped. Okay, let's see what we got here. One of the biggest challenges for agents in my office is having confidence in their abilities. They have the knowledge, tools, and desire, but they need to believe in themselves. Okay. I failed at the beginning of my business, and I've shared that with all of you. I failed because even though I was a police officer that worked undercover, I didn't believe in myself and I didn't master my skills. So I've told you guys this before. I had a disease called "that's not me." Every time someone would say something to me, I'd go, "That's not me." So to me, confidence really gets hindered by lack of mastery and using my own emotions to test what I should be doing. So let me start with mastery. Education, knowledge, know-how is one thing. Mastery is when the plane's falling out of the sky, do you know how to land it in the Hudson? Or do you have to go find help and look things up? So mastery is totally different than knowledge and information. Mastery means I've role-played it, I've practiced, I've drilled, I've rehearsed, I've failed, I've improved. So mastery is a big part of confidence. But the second side of that confidence, it can't just be that I've mastered it. I've got to make sure that I've given myself the permission to do things different than I believe should be done. Let me describe that. As a real estate agent, I was not buying or selling real estate. I was going to help people buy or sell real estate. So the emotions that I had about sales technique, about presentations, about information, was with someone that had no need to do a real estate transaction. So the way my brain processed presentation materials, scripts, talk tracks, I would go, "That's not me. That's not me. I would never do that. I don't like that." So I didn't use it. The mistake I made there was I was using my brain that had no need for a real estate transaction to filter what should be used with someone that did have a need. So I'll give you an example. You walk to your mailbox today. and your house is 6 months old, and you open up your mailbox and you pull out a card, and there's a bright, shiny 4-color card that says, hey, we're going to be in the neighborhood to assess your house for window replacement. Your house is 6 months old. You wouldn't look twice at that card. The techniques on that card mean nothing to you. The call to action on that card mean nothing to you because you don't have a need for windows. You got a 50-year-old house and you can feel the wind blowing through the windows. You go to your post, open it up, and there's a card about window replacement. You read it. You investigate it. You fall for the strategies and skill sets and call to actions. Well, let me go online and look. Let me call and see. Is it free for you to come out? The difference between the two is need. I messed up and didn't have the confidence because since it didn't make sense in my head, I thought it would be embarrassing to use in front of somebody. 33 years later, I know that what I do in front of people will not have a lick of sense or need if they don't have a desire or a need to do a real estate transaction. But what I do in front of people, if they have a need for real estate, they fall in love with me. I had to take myself out of the equation because I couldn't use the filter in my brain to decide whether or not a technique, strategy, or talk track was right. I had to trust in it, execute with my technique mastery, get the feedback and go, son of a gun, people love this. I never thought they would. How do we discover where buyers are coming from, whether in the US or globally? I don't know in Ohio. In Florida, our state association did a survey somehow that we used to get that showed our inbound people from out of the country and also out of the states. So we knew where the majority of people were coming from. I'm not sure. I would turn to my managers and, through Mark and Jeff and Bob, there might be a resource in the state for that. Can you briefly explain the difference with Leading RE and Realtor.com to explain to a seller? Okay, Realtor.com has tons more understanding, use, knowledge as a portal for real estate, okay? Leading RE's website is used mostly by people in Leading RE. So, the way I would describe it to people is that this is a website that has a global reach that also is utilized by these other professionals to know what's going on if they have people coming to or from an area. Because understand, Leading RE began as a broker-to-broker referral network. That's why they started it 26 years ago, to give the best of the best independent companies the same power that franchises were doing in matching up broker to broker for people transferring. That then grew into luxury and all kinds of other things, which gives us more and more winning differences. So think of Leading RE's website as the visual aid of information, pictures of their property to be utilized by the other Leading RE companies when someone is being transferred. I could sit down with somebody as a Leading RE company and go, you're moving to New Zealand. Well, let's pull up New Zealand on leadingre.com. And I would go to Barfoot and Thompson in New Zealand and look at their inventory. And they'd be like, oh, that's cool. Then I could pick the agent of something they like and contact that agent and do a broker-to-broker referral through Leading RE to make sure that I get paid. So that would be how I would differentiate it. Anything else? Okay, so in closing, I want you to do these 3 things for me. I want you to really commit here. 1, to what Alex said. What is your methodology that you will master? Remember the last webinar, I said, set yourself up for success. Give me an hour a day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks. That was my mantra for you. I want you to accept that. Guys, this market is going to shift. And while the tide is high, and before you go, into the loony bin because of the craziness, just carve out that time to start building that inventory because it is there. So what is the thing you will master? Master it, practice it, role play it, fall down a couple times and get back up to where you know it like the back of your hand. So that's 1. 2, small bites if necessary, but make commitments in your block time management to execute on that. That's why I talked about prospecting in your PJs. I need you to master 1 and then implement it ever so slightly or aggressively, I don't care, but implement it in a consistent fashion. And then the third thing I would ask of you is that you seek from your leadership team or from a peer, if you don't want to go to your leadership team, somebody to understand those 2 things. What is my methodology I want to master? And what is my commitment to go out and execute with it? So someone can be there to ask you the questions to make sure that you're not pretending, that you've really carved it out. It's like working out, guys. You know, you can go into your back office or in your garage and work out 3 times this week and feel good about yourself and then not get back in there for 3 months. We all do it. It's the same with prospecting. You go do it a few times and then you stop doing it. Even worse, you do it a few times, get a lead and run off with a lead and stop doing it. It is a part of our life that we have to make sure we master. So please step away today. What will I master? What is the frequency in which I will execute on it? And who will I have there to ask me those questions every once in a while? Are you still working out? Any final questions? Awesome. Can you give Jeff back a host? Mr. Russell, any comments before I leave?
Oh, another great job, Dan. I really loved what you said in the very beginning about time management. I know Lydia touched on it too. Can't blame time or the market. If you do, all this means is you don't know how to use your time appropriately, right? I think, you know, there's not a lack of things to do in a day. There's a lack of productive things to do. You know, there's a lack of commitment to do the productive things, I think is a better way to say it. So, you know, great stuff as always. Any other comments, by all means, please ask now. If not, Dan, we really do appreciate you as always. Enjoy these meetings and look forward to the next one. I think we're doing another one in August.
believe so.
On
Yep.
the 31st, I believe. So, everybody keep your eye open for that, and we will see everybody soon.
Awesome, guys. Be well. I'll see you next time around, guys.